You want to talk about like old news that's getting a shit polish? Nobody does it shittier. Glenn Beck wants to give us a Nord Stream bombing update, guys. This is it. You might not know this, but he's live on the road. He doesn't even have his ice cream sandwich microphone or whatever the fuck. He's on the road.
The new investigation into
he's doing I guess a book tour with the Mormon Tabernacle in the background. So he's just in Salt Lake City.
What should be one of the biggest questions of the last couple of years.
That's loud shit.
The investigation is now completed. The question is, who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline?
Russia.
This investigation was.
By the way, I don't know if he's coming down off of Sonic, and this or he's getting more, or there's one around every corner where he's going. Glenn, you need some fucking sleep, or you got to stop consuming so much sugar, dude. It's bad.
Led by a quote private enthusiast. A Swedish engineer named Eric Anderson. He was fed up over the lack of information, so he decided, I'm going to go down and look myself, which kind of pisses me off. We shouldn't have to wait for a Swedish, a Swedish private enthusiast to answer one of the bigger questions of our time. But it's
not.
It's over now. It's been over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So what did the private enthusiast tell us?
It's a good question.
He's
Nothing?
not sure now. Okay, that's helpful. May I ask, can we get some answers on a few things? It seems like the press and the...
Of which you are, I guess, one of them?
And the government, Congress, the White House, the Pentagon, they seem to be releasing all kinds of stuff about UFOs. I don't even know what this is. Every day, there's another one today. Yeah, UFOs are real, and we've got alien spaceships.
Yeah, that's what they said. I don't know. I don't even check in anymore. It's the only thing trending on Twitter. That's exactly what the White House said today. Right after the SCOTUS came down against affirmative action, they went, well, it doesn't matter anyways. There's aliens among us. Remember that? Jesus fucking Christ.
Wait, what? And
yeah, don't say wait what when you made up something in your fucking head. I know. I'll say a crazy thing and then pretend another voice said it.
I don't know if it's real or just a distraction, but...
Yeah, I feel that way about your show most of the time.
Could we maybe lay off the aliens for just a second?
No one asked you to bring it up, fuckhead. And it did not pertain to the conversation at all.
And let's just talk about the real story of the vaccines and the unexpected deaths and what happened with that.
What? Sorry. Which deaths were unexpected during a pandemic?
How about, hey, who started the COVID-19 virus? How did it happen?
You mean like the Biden administration's investigation into it? Do I have to bring up the video of Trump being interviewed on Australian television where the interviewer goes, it was your administration that stopped the ban on gain-of-function research in Wuhan specifically?
Or could we get some answers on the Twitter files?
Ask Matt Taibbi. He's the one who was dicking around with that horse shit. Why is it our fault, Glenn? Why is your audience or any of us on the hook for what your lack of reading comprehension or your inability to understand what the fuck Matt Taibbi was talking about? Now, granted, it was gibberish, so I get it, but that's our fault?
Here's one I'd like.
Oh, boy.
Epstein's client list. If this guy were a trucker in Nebraska, everyone on that list would have been exposed by now.
One moment, please. Hey, Glenn, you know this guy? Trucker charged in serial killings faces scrutiny across the U.S. Obviously, there are several cases that need to be followed up on. Iowa City, Iowa. Investigators from multiple states were looking Thursday into whether a long-haul trucker from Iowa, who's implicated in at least 3 women's slayings in the 1990s, could be responsible for other unsolved homicides. Officers arrested Clark Perry Baldwin, 58, in Waterloo on Wednesday after new DNA evidence allegedly tied him to 3 women whose bodies were dumped in Wyoming and Tennessee. Court documents allege that he also raped and choked a woman in Texas in 1991. Detectives with the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation are looking at any connections that Baldwin may have had to cold cases from that era. Glenn, do you know who this guy is? Do you have any idea who this fucking guy is? Does it matter to you? Dummy? Who's that guy? What's the list of his victims, Glenn? Name his victims. Shit. Figure about the trucker. You don't even fucking know.
How?
If he was a trucker, you wouldn't care.
How about we work a little bit on the pipe bomb from January 6th?
There were 2 of them, and you're going to have to ask Kevin McCarthy. He needs the votes.
We don't know anything about that. How about who's Jane's revenge? Or what was the motive for the Las Vegas shooter?
We now know that. He was apparently, he'd lost his high roller status. Yeah, this March, interesting. We had to wait until Biden was in office to find this out, but FBI documents give new view into Las Vegas shooter's mindset. The high-stakes gambler who carried out the deadliest mass shooting in modern America, killing 60 and injuring hundreds more in Las Vegas, was apparently angry over how casinos were treating him despite his high roller status. According to a fellow gambler, an FBI interview with the gunman's fellow gambler is detailed in hundreds of pages of documents made public this week. The gambler, whose name is redacted in the document, said he believed the stress could have easily caused Stephen Paddock to snap. Paddock, 64, was a video poker player who relied on gambling as his main source of income. The revelation comes after the FBI in Las Vegas and the local police department concluded their investigation without a definitive motive, although both agencies said Paddock burned through more than $1.5 million, became obsessed with guns, and distanced himself from his girlfriend and family in the months leading up to the massacre. In a statement Thursday, Vegas police defended their inconclusive findings and dismissed the importance of the documents released this week in response to open records requests from the Wall Street Journal. We were unable to determine a motive for the shooter. Speculating on a motive causes more harm to the hundreds of people who were victims that night. Still, the cache of documents offer a new view into the gunman's mindset through interviews with neighbors, acquaintances, and employees of the Las Vegas casinos he frequented. Those interviewed by the FBI described Paddock as a strange introvert who never made eye contact and only wanted to talk about gambling, while the gunman's fellow gambler told the FBI that Paddock was, quote, very upset that the red carpet treatment for high rollers seemed to be fading. According to the gambler, casinos had previously treated high rollers like Paddock to free cruises, flights, penthouse suites, rides in nice cars, wine country tours, but in the years before the October 1st, 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas, the gambler said casinos had been banning some high rollers for playing well and winning large quantities of money. Paddock himself had been banned from 3 Reno casinos, according to the documents. What more do you want? Was there some sort of, was it adrenochrome? Were there people in that crowd that had it coming, Glenn?
Why don't we know any of those things? Yet we know exactly what Donald Trump said about a document that they never found.
And that's not even to
wait, what?
mention the manifesto that we never got either.
Yeah,
they're still keeping that from us. The
trans manifesto from the shooter of the Christian school or whatever, because they're worried that it will inspire other people to kill other people. And what do you? I'm sorry, are you trying to complete the leather-bound copies of mass shooters' manifestos on your fucking mantle?
The trans person.
What again? What do you think's going to happen? One of 2 things: they're justifying what happened to them, or they're justifying what they did. Yeah, that's how they work. Do you think it was justified? Do you think it was worthwhile? Do you think inspiring other people to do that is a good idea? Again, What kind of Unabomber bullshit are you hoping for?
Manifesto, who went into the school and killed 6 people.
And they keep saying, well, there's all these conspiracy theorists. Well, because you're not telling us anything.
No, that's not why you become a conspiracy theorist. Because details not known or none of your fucking business are not something where you can spackle them shut with George Soros all the fucking time. That's how you become a conspiracy theorist. A conspiracy theorist is not somebody who is aware of what they don't know, and while they might have hinky feelings about it, stick to the facts that they do have and draw conclusions from those direct facts. It's somebody that fills in all the gaps in their knowledge with bullshit.
You're not coming forth with information that makes any sense.
All right, what was the information that would come forth with the Nashville shooter? That they had recently identified as trans, but they weren't necessarily, or they might have been non-binary. They went to the school. They came back later. They shot 6 people, 3 children, and I think 3 adults, and then they were killed. I don't know. Here's a better question. Why are you fixated on that one when the body count of, say, the Buffalo shooter is higher? Because we knew that person did it for white supremacist reasons, and you just don't want to talk about it? Who gives a shit? All of these idiots, all these mass shooters, all of them. It's an act of ego. It is all of them thinking their life and how they feel and their experience is more important than the lives of other people. And that is wrong. Morally, ethically, emotionally, psychologically, legally, it's wrong. So their reasoning, the only way it can help is if we can nip some of that in the bud in the future. For example, like decrying white supremacy when we see it so that other people don't go, I don't know, that's a decent reason for me to go on a shooting spree. But there aren't a bunch of people going, maybe the way trans people are being treated in law is a good reason for me to shoot up a fucking school with and murder 3 kids and 3 elderly people. What the fuck are you talking about?
So currently, there are official investigations being conducted by Sweden, Denmark, Germany, and Russia.
Yes, all the people that deal with either the waters around that area or that the pipeline was attached to. Hey, Glenn, if I may, do you guys mind for 1 second? I know, yeah, right. This fucking, okay. Let's just go. Let's go, I don't know, I'll try. Grab this. Yeah, here you go. Hey, Glenn, who blew up the South African pipeline? See that pipeline explosion right there? Look at all this shit. 2 people are dead. Hundreds were evacuated. Who blew it up? How did it blow up? What happened? What happened since then, Glenn? What's happened? This hold on, I'll block out the audience. This is in South Africa. Glenn, what happened? How did this? Why is no one claiming responsibility, or who did claim responsibility, or why do you know or don't give a shit that you know or don't know? Why don't you care? There's a bunch of people downwind from that shit. That's obviously in the, when it's a natural gas pipeline that's coming up through the water, it's just going to be reclaimed. A lot of the carbon that would be released is actually going to be absorbed by the ocean itself. This didn't occur to you. It's not, Glenn. It's not keeping you up at night. It's not. Well, let's see. How about? I don't know. Let's go with. How about? Let's see. This is earlier, but we'll go back to this one anyways. Let's grab this one. What about this pipeline in Syria 2 years ago? ISIS claimed that they blew it up, but there's a lot of debate about whether or not it happened. And the Russians, the Wagner group was in there. caused a huge blackout in Syria. There you go. Huge explosion has struck a major natural gas pipeline near Damascus, where a place where in open air markets you can buy stamps with Adolf Hitler on them. Go figure. Causing a near nationwide blackout, Syrian state media is quoting this country's electricity omens. The Sana news agency and Ikbaria TV channel showed footage of a huge fire after, I know I mangled that, but okay, we'll move on. Demire and Adra in the early hours of Monday, when the oil minister said may have been caused by a terrorist act. No deaths or injuries reported. Firefighters extinguished the blaze as power was gradually restored to the south. It blew up. There it is. There's the story, Glenn. Look at this. It's just terrible. Look at the explosion and the fire and the thing, and just look at it blowing up like that. And it's just look at the flames. It's so exciting. Glenn, look at the flamey flames. What happened there, Glenn? Why aren't you telling us? Why this happened 2 years ago, Glenn? Why aren't you filling in the gaps? Yes, who will pay for this? Why is there no why I have no Swedish divers broken into this? How about what about this one? There's the latest one. Is it this? This is in. What about the pipeline explosion in Guizhou in China? This is Xinhua talking about that. That looks pretty bad, I gotta say. That looks like a shitty place to be near. These people are very scared, bless their hearts, running away from that. That looks bad, I would say. That's some straight up. Hold on, back that shit up. Glenn, why aren't you? Why are you? What happened? Glenn. When are you going to get to the bottom of this? Look at obviously, this was done by the CIA in an attempt to get China to attack Taiwan and pull. Right? This is nope. You're not gonna. What? There's so many unanswered questions, and it's not my fault. I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that I think you or Stu. I mean, where is Stu today? Where is he? How do I know he didn't play a part in it? Huh? How do I know he's not on the fucking run at this point? And it's not my fault. You're just not coming forward with what you know about this. And
nobody seems to have any information. Sweden has.
All right. Yes, they do have information. They just don't have enough information to be definitive about it. And quite frankly, no one gives a fuck.
Collected evidence from the seabed, but deemed the information national security and refused to release it. There comes a point in a nation's history where national security means you should release the.
Why? Are you threatening Sweden now? Is that what we're doing? If Sweden doesn't tell us what they found on the seafloor and how they found it, what are we going to do? Bomb Sweden now? This is the worst white-on-white crime I've ever seen.
Information.
And as someone who works with a Swede on the regular, our Nerd Halen bass player, this will not stand. We love our Swedish brothers and sisters. Leave them the fuck alone.
Because nobody's believing any institution.
Well, maybe it's because you don't speak Swedish and it just sounds funny to you when they talk.
Why would the government invest?
Yes, Victor does rock, Mark. Thank you for bringing that up. As do you, if I may. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, Mark Kremer, everybody. Just saying. In the chat room, I insist. Just throwing that in there. Hi, Mark. Oh, my God, the craziness. All right, here we go. Just getting this show together.
Investigating this, be content with the whole world just thinking maybe it's the United States. It does.
I don't give a fuck. We don't care. We have no reason to do it. And there's a point where we would look defensive. Look at that. There you go. We'd look defensive. Like it's nobody cares anymore.
Doesn't make sense that it's Russia, but maybe it was.
Yeah, it does. It makes total sense that it's Russia. It was a full gas pipeline. None of the gas was going to leave through the German side. It was going to have to come back through the Russian side. It was completely pressurized. The Germans had cut it off far enough away from their shoreline where they didn't have to worry about if it exploded or blew up. It wasn't going to affect fucking Germany, but it was absolutely going to blow the pumping factory, or the pumping station rather, in Russia to smithereens, along with whatever the rest of St. Petersburg, unless they vented it. So they vented it in the sea.
Russia.
And then they refilled it with air.
At first, the United States and Russia blamed each other. Then the veteran journalist Seymour Hersh wrote an in-depth article that claimed the United States was ultimately responsible. What did the government respond with? I haven't read that article. I don't think that's true. Oh, okay.
No, that wasn't their response either. Just Glenn, is that how Glenn's show works nowadays? He just makes shit up, like the most hyperbolic, ridiculous explanation for what other people are doing, and then he attacks it as if they actually said it. It's almost like when Russell Brand reads.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better.
I again. Sorry. There you go.
Then the reports started to surface of Russian ghost ships. Well, let's call the Scooby-Doo team. Let's get the mystery van in. 3 months ago, Joe Biden...
It's the mystery machine. And also, Scooby-Doo kids have never handled anything aquatic. I think there was I take that back. There was one swamp creature at one point, but it still turned out to be the dude who ran the amusement park.
Met with the German counterpart for a private meeting. Then, a few days after that, things started to be reported in places like the New York Times that it was a pro-Ukrainian group that most likely blew up the pipeline.
No, that's not how they reported it. But again, now I think we're all getting a picture into how Glenn confuses himself. This is, I mean, you can't be in someone else's head when they read articles or when they see headlines, but this is as close as we're going to get. This is, and Glenn is, Glenn's Glenn, but he's exemplary of a particular mindset. And you can tell that this is how Glenn reads things. This is how Glenn takes things the rest of us see that look nothing like this, and this is what makes it through his fucking forehead.
And 6 individuals chartered a sailboat and pulled something off that previously all the experts were saying could only be accomplished by a major state actor. More on this one in a second.
Also, not a sailboat. I'm fairly certain the argument was that they had gotten like a couple of power boats, but whatever.
So the curious...
Again, point made.
Back to him, the curious Swedish engineer in his private investigation, Eric Anderson, read Seymour Hersh's article, and his original intent was to try to prove it accurate.
Unfortunately for Eric.
But on conclusion, he decided the most likely culprits were amateurs with not a lot of experience. He found that the explosives used and how they were placed were, how do I say this, not Navy SEAL quality. So the Russians
did it with a pig, like I said. They didn't have to place them. They just sent them in a pig and... Okay.
The U.S. government says the private enthusiast. Well, you know what? I feel so good when we're on the verge of World War III.
We're not. Or we're already in it. I always get mixed up.
That a Swedish private enthusiast could give us the answers. TheGrayZone.com received exclusive photos from Eric Anderson's investigation and their analysis. I've never even heard of, but let's see what they have to say.
Well, apparently you're not allowed to even say their name because you were edited on your own channel. Whatever. It's just bad audio.
Their analysis differs from Anderson's. They cite another independent engineer that none of us have heard of, named Michael Cobbs. And he says that the amount of explosive used, around 100 pounds, was very, very specific. Not too much, not too little. Goldilocks, it was just right. He said if we disregard the chain reaction caused by the overpressure at all the other crime scenes, the scale of destruction certainly seems calculated, but by no means exaggerated. These were no amateurs at work. So maybe Hersh was right. Maybe Hersh was wrong. Who knows? Because no.
Well, it's thanks, Glenn. My head is full of conspiracy theories because you can't keep anything fucking straight. Bring the show to Kansas City, please. I will do just that, Larry. We will make that happen. Thanks so much. Bless you.
No one will tell us anything. There is no one searching for an honest answer anywhere on earth except regular people. Everybody in the news media, everybody in politics, they don't care about the truth. In fact,
Glenn doesn't care about the truth. The truth. Okay, hold on. The gray zone. I'm trying to find this article. He's an independent Nord Stream. Okay, this is okay. Here we go. I don't know why I'm spelling it. Oh yeah, this is the dude with the boot. Okay, so independent Nord Stream expedition discovers clue missed by official investigators, which was just a fucking boot. And they're like, this is the boot that U.S. Navy divers use. It's also readily for sale in any dive shop. The Gray Zone participated in what appears to be the first independent expedition investigated by... Okay. On the evening of May 24th, I stood above a small ship called the Baltic Explorer with sun... There we go. This is the footage of said thing where they... video of the boot. That's the boot on the ground. Hey, look, a boot. Yes. It's only been buried there for fucking ever. You do realize this thing has been there ever since. Yeah. This is now... Honestly, who thought this would turn into the clunkiest version of Cinderella ever? Now they've just got to go around and see which Navy SEAL this boot fits, and they can marry him or her. What took place on September 26th shattered the placid atmosphere that usually prevails on the Baltic Sea. Yes, usually. It's usually so calm. On that day, as the war in blah blah blah, $23 billion Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines carried natural gas from Europe. This is the most severe act of industrial sabotage in human history, severing the main artery for affordable energy from it had already been closed. Nord Stream, I mean, they'd already said we're not taking it, we're not using it. It was already after that point. Gross sabotage was disgusting. Ukraine's U.S. trained Navy divers also spotted using the same model boot. Oh, I see, yeah. Or one which is virtually identical. It should be noted, however, the boots of similar appearance appear to be commercially available as well. Apparently, you can buy these. Anybody want these? There they are. How could they possibly... Where are we ever going to get a diver safety overboot for this? How is anyone going to... Availability? That's my favorite part. Yes. Okay. Great. Now we got another conspiracy. How in the world are we supposed to... I don't even know. It's unknown for how long the boot has been exposed to the seafloor. As seen in figure, Anderson, the organizer of the expedition, believes it is possible the boot was previously covered by sediment or mud, which may have been moved by underwater currents or the blast. Otherwise, it is unclear how investigators could have missed it. Yes, that's right. It's left there from when they actually put the fucking thing in, and then it blew up and uncovered it. The boot closely resembles the diver overboot produced by Northern Diver, a British company whose products are produced in China. China. Watching from the beginning and as I've missed... Oh, thanks, Suze. Thanks, Moms Russo. Open link in new tab. Let's see. Made in China. The Endiver boot. It looks like a Thor overboot. A Thor overboot, said Neil Tordoff. Jackie, thank you so much. Gunther, bless you. Neil Tordoff, the military and commercial sales director of the Northern Diver, stated after viewing a photo of the boot sent by Gray Zone, I can't be 100% sure because it's a little watery. There's Northern Diver. Open water suits, commercial suits and equipment. Let's take it. Oh, there's the boot. There it is. Could be one of those. It could be another. We don't know. It could be... Thank God no one can create a fake boot anywhere. Okay, anyways. Heard the call. This is wonderful. It's a Torah overboot, you know. This item is used worldwide, he added, and especially in this area. The owner of the boot may have been a diver who lost it while planting the bombs. It also, alternatively, the boot may belong to a diver ordered back to the crime scene to retrieve the unexploded charge meant for the yeah. A theory proposed by Seymour Hush, or perhaps it belonged to a commercial diver, or perhaps it was worn by the people who put the fucking thing in the first place that were checking the line, or perhaps it was one that years before had been... How long has it been commercially available? Since the 60s. I don't know, pick it up. Check the serial number, stupid. A boot. This is clearly, we've got evidence now, you know. And mark, do, be murny, nerdy, do, mark. Here we find a Swedish Vicky. Who bombed the Nord Stream? I don't even have to ask anymore. I don't need to know. You don't need to know. Glenn definitely doesn't need to know. Here's the face of a man who's tired of knowing. Sometimes the burden of knowledge is too much.
Pushing lies on us all the time. Hey.
Oh, terrible. That's to which Glenn says, that's my fucking job.
Hey, are you a man? Have you been pregnant before? No, I'm a man, and men can't get pregnant.
Really? I'm sorry, then I guess I'm just going to call you fat. Glenn, has somebody walked up to you and jokingly said, hey, how many weeks? And you actually thought that was a legit question?
How dare you say that?
This always comes back to something like trans. Like in his everyday fucking life, he's always having to go like, oh shit, we've all got to step back, let the transes get their thing first. Every time I'm at a buffet, whenever I'm in line at Sonic, they have like a trans to the front of the line thing. I'm always put out by everything comes back to it. Good
now,
Lord.
Here's what they...
0.51% of the populace is interfering with... He would have sold all those books by now if it weren't for the transes.
They will tell us. After Biden met with the German prime minister, and this is the only official narrative that we have, a pro-Ukrainian group of 6 individuals that are connected to the Ukrainian military chartered a sailboat and set off to...
They charted it. Did they draw a chart of how you make a sailboat? You mean they chartered it? But okay.
To blow...
And by the way, this was a temporary... This was a story that floated up as well.
Up Nord Stream. How do we know this? Well, apparently a tip came in from a, quote, Western intelligence agency. Oh. They said 5 men and 1 woman loaded diving gear, oxygen tanks, and 100 pounds...
and 9 boots.
Pounds of explosives onto the sailboat. Then, without any other equipment, no decompression chamber, somehow or another, the 5 men and the 1 woman, I want to make sure that we're very inclusive. There was a woman on board.
Again, I don't know why this is a thing. Like, I don't know why you have to be touchy about the idea that it's so stupid.
Somehow they took that 100 pounds of explosive down to the ocean floor, placed them exactly in the right place on the pipelines.
Let's see. Let's see. Let me do a large one. I mean, depends on your budget, I suppose. This one's $800. This one's $328. I'm guessing you'd need something with a payload. Maybe this one. The professional underwater drone is $3,400. It can tow a piece that big and drop it off. Best underwater drones. Look at Digital Camera World. Best underwater drone. There you go. Yeah, there you go. The power of it. They're big on the power ray, but that's got a connector on it. So I think that's got to stay close to the surface or whatever. The Gladius Mini, the Chasing Innovation, it's the Power Vision Power Dolphin. That doesn't need anything on, but I don't know what you would hook that to. This looks more like it. The Thor Robotics King Crab. Looks like shit, but it looks like it would work. Best underwater robot with a grabber arm. So an arm that can grab can also release. How about this guy? Shit. Looks fairly specific. I guess you'd have to be able to maneuver it. Look at the jets on this little fucker. Yeah, you can rotate that guy, move him, slow him down, up, down. There's what, 6? Yeah, 6 on there plus whatever thruster they have on it. Look at this little guy right here. It's a Pro K camera one. Look at this big one though. That's the Chasing M2. It's like Chasing Amy, but M2. Look at the movement on these thrusters here. These little propellers. There's 8 on the front and 8 on the back. And it's got a little tie point. You can get it to release something. You just fly it down there. It's got a little connector on there. Speed there. Wired remote from wireless surface units. It's got a 4K camera. 98 work hours. Goes 3 knots. Weighs 4.5 kilograms. You can buy it at Newegg or Walmart or BH. Easy to control. Thrusters well protected. Sealed SD card slot. Lights could be brighter. That's one of the things. I guess I'm gonna move that. How about this guy? The Giannino S2. The best C-scooter for drivers who want to be there. Look at this little guy. That looks like I don't know, where you're gonna send that guy. River. Just this insertion point. Does it drag behind you? All right. And then look at this kid right over here having a great time with any one of these horrible things. So again, it depends on your budget, but I think the top of the line is going to go for from Walmart, you can get one for $2,500. I'm sure they could ship it to Germany fairly cheaply. And then everything else is straight off of Amazon. You could have done the whole thing on the cheap for, let's say you make your own contraption, make a pressure release valve that once it reaches a certain pressure point or through a radio control just snaps open, and you attach that to the back of this one. Let's say that runs you $100. Then you could do the whole thing for $481.98. There's your entire, not including the cost of explosives, obviously. The King Crab, that's a real professional endeavor right here. Same thing with the Thor Robotics underwater drone. All these are going to have, and then the one with the grasper on the front of it, that's some serious shit. So yeah, I mean, if it was 1965, I think you'd have a hard time explaining it. But I think these days, stupid.
And the tip from the Western Intelligence
just the tip.
Agency.
Western intelligence agencies love to play just the tip. I'm just saying. I can't say I blame them.
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like Dick? Yes. What?
All right.
Went on to say it was a lucky thing that they placed the explosives exactly in the right place.
No, they didn't say that. It's a giant pipeline. What are you talking about? You think there was one, they found the one hairline crack in it? The fuck are you talking about?
A recent report from the Swedish outlet, the Expressen, which is probably a little more credible than the Gray Zone, but seeing that I've never heard of the Expressen either, who knows?
At this point, we're just going to have to go with Glenn has lost his mind.
They said
what there is, and who can blame him for losing it since it's so small?
a lot of important clues were found when authorities located the sailboat. Now, on this sailboat, they found traces of explosives that match exactly what would be needed. Not what was used, but what would be needed for underwater demolition. That's an amazing luck. I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those.
Again, I don't know what the fucking point he's making. I don't know. That the U.S. did it or didn't do it, that Seymour Hersh was right or wrong, that it was these guys or it wasn't these guys. Does he even care at this point?
Those darn kids in the mystery van.
Mystery machine, fuckhead.
So it gets better. They also...
It has to. It has to.
Found a forged passport, and it was left behind on the boat. Now...
Okay, there's going to be a 9/11 reference here, no doubt.
This is very fortunate for us. I mean, it's probably pretty regular that a clandestine operative, 5 men and 1 woman, leave behind identification at the crime scene. But they tracked down, the Expressen did, they tracked down the person identified on the passport, who, of course, was Ukrainian. Also, of course, they can't find him. They don't know what happened.
Hey, maybe he's from the Donbass. Maybe it's because it's Russians. Maybe because they made this shit up. When's the last time, by the way, just for the record, when's the last time we saw fake passports, just in general, in the story of Ukraine and all this other stuff? Hold on. Let me see if I'm typing correctly. Sorry. There you go. A passport, which was found during a search of Russian offices of mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, was used by his double to enter Lithuania in 2020 in an attempt to foment a scandal, Lithuania's counterintelligence service said on Wednesday. Prigozhin flew into exile in Belarus on Tuesday under a deal that ended a mutiny by his fighters. Russian media outlet Fontanka RU, if you know what's good for you, on Sunday published pictures purportedly taken during a Russian security service raid. That's they should have these pictures, right? Nope, they don't have them. What the hell's wrong with you, Reuters? A photo of one of the passports appears to match a picture of 2021, picture released in 2021 by Lithuania's counterintelligence state security department of a man said to be traveling under Prigozhin's name. The passport issued to Prigozhin's double was used in 2020 for an informational attack on Lithuania. I don't know anybody who uses fake passports.
Yeah, a picture of him, and we've got cameras all over the world. We just can't, darn it. I wish we could find that guy. But
or it could simply be a digital creation, Midjourney being what it is.
We can't. They did, however, track down one of his relatives who stated they knew for a fact that he was not out of the country during the time of the bombing. So there's that.
Because he was in a cemetery. Also, and
we have the Expressin, which is very, very credible. And we have this guy's family who said the opposite. Gee, who do we believe? So now we're back to square one.
The Expressin's just saying that the passport that might be his was there, not that he was there. That doesn't mean somebody didn't steal his identification if they look vaguely like him and try to track down this dude who may either be fighting on one side or the other in Ukraine for Russia or for the Ukrainians, or might be dead or might be alive and might be in hiding, might be on the run, and that's why they used it. Maybe he's been captured. Who knows?
One, we currently have 4 official investigations. 2 of them are private investigations, and one with an extremely lucky Western Intelligence Agency tip that claims 6 people on a sailboat pulled everything off.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Let's see. Nord Stream to Ukrainian whatever. German concentration boat Nord Stream South. Okay, they've been found on a let's see. German prosecutor search. This is, yeah. Just like Glenn's fucking knowledge of things. This is 3 months old. German prosecutor search boat Nord Stream saboteurs may have used. Ministers urge caution over reports pro-Ukrainian group behind gas pipeline blast. German prosecutors have confirmed investigators have searched a boat that may have been used last year in the bombing, but ministers urge caution over hasty conclusions about reports a pro-Ukrainian group was responsible. Citing intelligence officials, New York Times reported on Tuesday a saboteur group had blown up the pipelines while Die had said the attack had been carried out by 5 men and a woman and rented a yacht using false passports. The report, again, a yacht, not a sailboat. Again, Glenn's, all right, maybe it's a yacht sailboat. Maybe it's a yacht with, they have a picture of the yacht. Speaking of the same, Stockholm minister said, a bit strange, nothing to do with the Ukrainian government's accompaniment by special forces. This is not our activity. This kind of things, and this is the... Meanwhile, it's blamed U.S. and U.K., blah, blah, blah. Here's the attack went to divert attention. Kremlin, Dmitry Peskov, who's totally trustworthy. Here's the weird check. Okay, this is the footage of the pipeline damage captured in underwater sea footage. They sent this little guy down. There it is. Let's go into the water. There it is, streaming along the ground. No boot so far. There's a big ditch in the ground, and look at that. Look at the folded out metal. Look at the can I okay, hang on. Hang the fuck on. Let's see, right here. Look at the metal right there. Does that not look like it's does anybody else look like it's blown out? Anybody? Maybe it's just the current bent the metal. Yep. Again, I'm sticking with my pig theory. Pipeline inspection gadget, dragging explosives, boom. That's Occam's fucking razor. Occam's razor. There's no video or sensors or anything from Russia that says something outside of it was ever laid or hit or pointed. They've got cameras along the entire thing. They've got sensors along the whole thing. They've bragged about it, and yet they aren't releasing the footage. So if they're not, they have a reason for doing that. And also, since the pipeline looks like it was blown up from the inside, I'm going with blown up from the fucking inside.
Dueling narrative after dueling narrative.
I don't know if it's dueling narratives. I think different people from their perspective are trying to figure out. You got four blind men trying to describe an elephant. That's what you got, because it's fucking under a lot of water, and the country closest to it with the most information won't share it.
I don't know. It feels like, again,
and I know what this feeling is, Glenn. Your head is up your ass. That's what that sensation is.
Confusion is almost purposeful.
No, Glenn. The rest of us aren't confused. The rest of us aren't walking around going, what the fuck? I can't even, I don't know. What do you mean? What do I remember our anniversary? Did you realize nobody's figured out who blew up the pipeline definitively yet? I mean, I know it makes sense, but it's so confusing. It's like they're doing it to me on purpose. I was worried that they would go after, my brain, but I feel like they've attacked me via the kidney. Yeah, they're trying to confuse you on purpose. As other people try to find out something that's difficult to find out, the fact that they haven't found it out yet is a plot to make Glenn Beck more confused than he already is. I got news for you, dickhead. It's not possible. You are peak confusion.
The media is doing absolutely zero real investigation and...
Hey, dickhead. Most newspapers don't have a submarine. And they sure as shit aren't going to, when they can barely afford to send reporters to crime scenes in their own goddamn cities, aren't going to start renting submersibles from rich dickheads, because look how that turns out.
Journalism. None.
Then do it yourself. You wrote a whole fucking book. Is the solution to the Nord Stream mystery in here? No? Then fuck you.
Outside, of regurgitating, stuff from their usual, insiders and unnamed sources tell us. Really? Is that somebody from the NSA? Is that somebody from the CIA who's been obviously feeding you false information for years?
Why? Again, what evidence do you have that they've been feeding them false information? What does that even mean? Where's the false information? What in regards to fucking what? Yellow cake in Iraq or something? Is it we're going back to that? Or is it just that any inside source is automatically a CIA spook because now it's the CIA of the gaps? Like everything that happens in the fucking world is Twitter, something's happening. Andrea, is something happening on Twitter that I should know about? Something terrible? Something, or did I go down on Twitter? Who knows? It's hard to say, these assholes. Is Beck quitting himself? Trump's latest Moms for Liberty. Da-da-da. I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
And yet you're still
Oh, I see. You put it there.
going
Gotcha.
back to the same source over and over and over again?
No, they aren't. What are you talking about? That and you know what? Oh my fucking God. You know who can be accused of that? You know who's absolutely fucking guilty of that, Glenn? Going back to the same CIA internal source every fucking time for years and being wrong a lot on this. You know who? You know fucking who? Hold on. Where are you? Oops. I'll show you. God damn it. This fucking guy. Seymour Hersh is always bragging about somebody inside the intelligence community that feeds him dirt, and he's been bragging about it forever. It's the same person, and if this is wrong, then most of the shit he talks about is wrong. And by the way, if I may, so let's see this. Encyclopedia Britannica. The My Lai massacre. Okay, this is Seymour Hersh gets credit for this story, even though he piggybacked on somebody else's. Let me run this by you, because many people know that Seymour Hersh made his bones talking about the My Lai massacre, and he's known in many ways for telling this tale. Now, I'm gonna as I break down what happened, and I go through this, and this is Britannica's version of events, but it's nobody disputes the breakdown of it. I think Andrea, I thought you meant you were giving out my ad, House Sparks, and I thought that something had happened. I thought you were referencing me. Never mind. Anyways, so okay, shortly before 7:30 a.m. on March 16th, 1968. Sunmai Village was shelled by U.S. artillery. The preparatory barrage was intended to clear a landing area for Charlie Company's helicopters, but its actual effect was to force those civilians who had begun leaving the area back to My Lai in search of cover. Minutes later, Charlie Company's first platoon, led by Lieutenant William Colley, was inserted a short distance to the west of the sub-hamlet known locally as Shomlang, but marked as My Lai on U.S. military maps. Now, they had been told that everybody would, the artillery would drive everybody out, and anybody left behind was an enemy combatant. So they're rolling into this with that idea. By 7:50 a.m., the remainder of Charlie Company had landed, and Cali led the first platoon east through My Lai. Although they encountered no resistance, the soldiers nonetheless killed indiscriminately, meaning they were firing into hamlets. They didn't see anybody. They were just shooting at people, anybody that moved from relatively far away and then up close. And these guys fucking slaughtered people. This is not the part that I have an issue with the story of. Watch this. Over the next hour, groups of women, children, elderly men were rounded up and shot at close range. U.S. soldiers also committed numerous rapes. Charlie Company's second platoon moved north from the landing zone, killing dozens, while third platoon followed behind. Charlie Company was doing a wipe of this. This was, again, not in dispute at all. Destroying the hamlet's remaining buildings and shooting survivors. At 9 a.m., Cali ordered the execution of as many as 150 Vietnamese civilians who had been herded into an irrigation ditch. Sergeant Ron Haberl, a U.S. Army photographer attached to Charlie Company, documented the events of the day. He used a black and white camera for official Army records, but shot in color on his personal camera. Many of the black and white images depicted soldiers questioning prisoners, searching possessions, burning huts. Although the destruction of property violated U.S. military command directives, such actions were typically a search and destroy mission and did not provide direct evidence of war crimes. Haberl's personal color photographs, which he did not turn over to the Army, were later published in the Cleveland Plain Dealer and Life magazine. One graphically depicted a trail littered with bodies of dead women, children, infants, and other captured a group of terrified women and children moments before they were shot. These photographs served to galvanize the anti-Vietnam War movement and became some of the most recognizable images of the war. As the massacre was taking place, Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson was flying a scout helicopter at low altitude above My Lai. Observing wounded civilians, he marked their location with smoke grenades and radioed for troops on the ground to proceed to those positions to administer medical aid. This is the story. Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson is a fucking hero. Follow this. This is the part that always gets kind of like when you talk about what happened there. Charlie Company was engaged in brutal, horrible violence, no question. Then comes in the regular order soldiers. Was flying a scout helicopter at low altitude above My Lai, observing wounded civilians. He marked their locations with smoke grenades and radioed for troops on the ground to proceed to those positions to administer medical aid. After refueling, Thompson returned to My Lai only to see the wounded civilians subsequently had been killed. Spotting a squad of U.S. soldiers converging on more than a dozen women and children, Thompson landed his helicopter between the two groups. Thompson's door gunner, Lawrence Coburn, and his crew chief, Glenn Andreatta, manned their weapons as Thompson hailed other helicopters to join him in ferrying the civilians to safety. In 1998, Thompson, Coburn, and Andreatta posthumously were awarded the Soldier's Medal for acts of extraordinary bravery not involving contact with the enemy. By 11 a.m., as many as 500 Vietnamese civilians had been killed. Medina ordered Charlie Company to break for lunch and informed his superiors that scores of Viet Cong had been killed in the operation. So he told everybody, the head of Charlie Company radioed in that they killed a bunch of Viet Cong. The sole U.S. casualty had occurred when a soldier shot himself in the foot while trying to clear a jammed weapon. Upon his return to base later that morning, Thompson reported that he observed the widespread killing of civilians in My Lai. Over subsequent days, while Charlie Company continued its unsuccessful search for the 48th Viet Cong Battalion, which is who they were after when they came for this, a cursory investigation was made of Thompson's allegations, in spite of efforts from Vietnamese officials that hundreds of civilians had been killed in My Lai and that Sun Mai village had been almost entirely razed. The official after-action report characterized the My Lai operation as a resounding success. So they hit it. On April 24, 1968, Orrin Henderson, commander, because nobody flew in other than Thompson, and they didn't go back, concluded that 20 civilians had been accidentally killed in My Lai, either in the opening artillery barrage or crossfire between the U.S. and Viet Cong forces, and that Thompson's report was false. Thompson found himself assigned to increasingly dangerous missions with inadequate air cover. He was shot down 5 times, breaking his back in the final crash. Again, Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson is a fucking hero. By late April 1968, Ronald Rittenauer, this is the guy who actually broke the story, not Seymour Hersh, a helicopter door gunner who had trained with members of Charlie Company, had begun to pursue an informal investigation of the massacre after learning of it from troops who had been present that day. Rittenauer spent the rest of his time in Vietnam gathering eyewitness testimony. Having returned to the United States and separated from the Army on March 1969, Rittenauer mailed a report of his finding on the Pinksville incident to members of Congress, the Pentagon, others in Washington. This letter officially sparked official investigations of both the massacre itself and the subsequent cover-up. Rittenauer, Medina, Thompson, and Calley were among those interviewed, and in September 1969, Calley was charged with the murder of 109 Vietnamese civilians. Acting on a tip, journalist Seymour Hersh made a contact with Calley's defense team. In November 1969, Hersh's Pulitzer Prize-winning account of point-blank murder at My Lai appeared in newspapers along with Haberl's photos, shocking the world. In addition to Calley, Medina and another officer, along with the 9 enlisted men, were charged with crimes in connection with My Lai. With the exception of Calley, all of those charges were acquitted or had their cases against them dismissed before trial. In stark contrast with the defendants at the Nuremberg trials that followed in World War II, the members of Charlie Company were successfully able to argue they simply had been following orders on March 16, 1968. At the conclusion of Calley's court-martial in 1971, he was found guilty of the murder of 22 Vietnamese civilians and sentenced to life in prison. Many observers, however, believe that Calley had been made a scapegoat, and in 1974 he was paroled. The massacre and other atrocities revealed that the trial divided the U.S. public and contributed to the growing disillusionment with the war. Now, couple of things. One is, the primary story of that day is not so much that quote-unquote, a group of Charlie Company went native thinking they were coming across a village after they'd been at war for a long time and a mess, and they opened fire, they engaged in atrocities that no one forgives. The part of it that I take issue with is that Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson, it was a man who single-handedly saved hundreds of Vietnamese people by ordering his gunners to point guns at our own troops to stop them from engaging this behavior. And his name is all but invisible from most of Hersh's telling of the story, and certainly the retelling. The second part is that Ronald Rittenauer is the guy who actually did all the legwork. The Seymour Hersh got to print it effectively with those pictures because of the paper he was associated with. He didn't go back and build this. So build this case from nothing or go and interview these people and come across this. He got a tip from somebody on the inside about the investigation that Ronald Rittenauer had carried out. Fucking salute to Hugh Thompson and Ronald Rittenauer. And quite frankly, his gunners, I don't want to screw up their names. So Thompson's door gunner, Lawrence Coburn, and his crew chief, Glenn Andreatta. Lawrence Coburn and Glenn Andreatta and fucking Hugh Thompson fucking deserve, like, because imagine yourself in that situation. You are at war with a group of people. You are recognizing that oftentimes you're in a situation where, you know, kids with like shoe shine boxes are blowing up soldiers on leave and that kind of stuff. So landing your helicopter between soldiers and civilians does not necessarily mean that those civilians weren't previously engaged with gunfire against them or that kind of, but it didn't matter to him. He did it anyways. And at that point, this guy lands his helicopter between them and has his guys turn their guns towards the soldiers and tell them not to advance. Imagine being in that situation yourself. You see this happening. You think that the soldiers were going to come back and help them, and then you fly back, and the people that you thought were going to get medical care are fucking dead. And you realize that Charlie Company is killing these people, and you land your helicopter between them, the civilians, and these advancing soldiers, and you and the gunners on your helicopter aim your guns at these guys who have been wiping people out all day. Just run that through your head, what that would take, what that would mean, because you could be on the receiving end of this. If they're covering their crimes, you're done. This is gonna be a gunfight between you and your own U.S. soldiers. So fucking God bless that guy. Holy hell. The horror of Charlie Company is, and the size of that group, that's the size of Charlie Company engaged in this, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd platoon of Charlie Company engaged in that, by the volume of people involved and the stuff that they did, is a horrifying tale and is unforgivable in my estimation. But not surprising in the case of the Vietnam War, if you followed that, or any other war in history for that matter, as much as this is. The surprising part was this. So, on top of that, also giant kudos to Ronald Rittenauer, who, after Thompson and those guys had filed their report to try and tell what the fuck had happened, it got buried because everybody was worried about the war and fucking all the uppers were, who knows who they were hiding it from above them. But Rittenauer went to Vietnam and went through eyewitness testimony, both soldiers and civilians. And he brought that information back. And who gets credit for everything? My Lai is now associated with the greatness of Seymour Hersh. And let me show you the sentence that bugs the fuck out of me in this. Acting on a tip, which is Seymour Hersh's entire career, it seems at this point, including his bullshit about the Nord Stream. Acting on a tip, journalist Seymour Hersh made contact with Callie's defense team. Callie is the Charlie commander who ordered the whole fucking thing. Of all the people, did he call Rittenauer acting on a tip? Rittenauer created this whole thing. You might want to reach out because he did interviews and... Who did Seymour Hersh get a tip to reach out to? The person who ordered the massacre. Why? To get his point of view first? To get the blood side of it? To get to sell that angle of the story? Instead of the other side of the story, which would have, very possibly, if you told it from the point of view of These guys did this, were in the process of doing this thing. And Hugh Thompson, an American helicopter pilot, saw what was happening and landed his helicopter in the middle of this. And he and 2 of his men stopped this massacre in its tracks. And if you sell it from that line, the American public would go, glad we know about this. Everybody involved should go to jail. And Hugh Thompson needs an award. In 1998, Thompson, Colburn, and Andreotta, who was dead at the time, were awarded the Soldier's Medal for acts of extraordinary bravery, not involving contact with the enemy, during the Clinton administration. Yes, Calley was later pardoned. However, not at that time. At that time, this was the lead up of it. And I think it was during Ford. So the story of My Lai, also called the Pinkville Massacre, was the mass killing of as many as 500 unarmed villagers by U.S. soldiers in My Lai on March 16th, 1968, during the Vietnam War. The story is equal parts horror and bravery, because the extraordinary heroism of 3 men in a helicopter stopping the slaughter of civilians and reporting it to the expense of their own safety, too, after that fact, because they kept increasingly getting sent into places without air cover and all this other shit, makes them even more heroes in my book. Hugh Thompson and Andreotta, they have, yeah. I'm sorry, one more thing. Yeah. And Colburn, let's see if there was a, yeah, so that's the one picture from the My Lai massacre, from the color pictures. He's associated with it. If you look in Britannica, he's literally, if you look at the My Lai Vietnam War in the media, the first thing under this, Seymour Hersh. The breakdown of him. Yeah, even right here, Seymour America, who's reporting generally focused on the U.S. government and its involvement abroad. He was especially noted for his investigations in the My Lai massacre and the Abu Ghraib prison scandal, both of which came to him through tips of people who wanted the focus to be on, that was the norm, not the other way around. That wasn't the fact that the uppers were saying, something awful had happened and they were trying to either downplay it while punishing the people involved or what have you, but that was indicative of the entire thing. That was his, every fucking time the tip comes in, Seymour Hersh writes a story, and the idea is that whatever the focus of that story is, like, hey, we got one because it's war. We got one that's particularly awful. People will hate this. Your job, Seymour Hersh, is to paint the entire circumstance with that brush. And again, the hero of this story, Thompson, Colburn, Andreotta, and Ridenour. And Ridenour did the actual investigative work. Ronald Ridenour should be the name associated with the My Lai massacre being made public, people knowing about it, it leading to prosecutions and the like. But Seymour Hersh gets credit for it after being tipped off by arguably the same person who apparently gives him his tips. And his first reaction is to contact the defense team of the man who arranged for the massacre. Rant over.
So chalk this one up to yet one of the greatest mysteries of all time that places us on the verge of World War III.
Excuse me, I thought we were, are we on the verge of the tip? I need to know.
That will probably take us several years to actually find out what the truth is, but don't.
Well, I mean, do we have several years? I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. It's the tip of World War III. How do you wait several years to find out something? Obviously, by the end of the war, we'll be sifting through nuclear rubble looking for the answer to who blew up the pipeline. When the answer is, obviously, we'll just, I guess, fly an abandoned bomber aircraft all the way to Russia and just, shake one of them by the collar and make them admit it.
Don't worry. They're very, very close to telling us the whole truth on the Kennedy assassination. So this one's right around the corner.
Okay, and again, and this is him going to commercial. Are Nord Stream pipeline explosion answers being hidden is the name of this video. One of the biggest questions yet to be answered. We're not even going to the fucking Bigfoot or anything like that. Yet to be answered. Concerns the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline bombing and who was responsible for it all. For some strange reason, the United States and other world governments too, doesn't seem to care about finding the truth, leaving private enthusiasts to do it. That's his little breakdown there. Did this dickhead ever finish talking? Love your rants. Oh, thank you, Luis. Yeah, sorry, I get off on because here's the thing. One of the things that's irritating when you actually give a shit is people pretending to give a shit. That's the issue.